lesson is all about the mile. So, mile is a customary unit used to measure distance. I think from my house to St. Joan, I think is like just over a mile. 1.2 miles, I think it is. I clocked it once on my way to school one day. So, but a mile is about how far you can walk in 25 minutes, but I bet that most of you could probably walk a mile faster than 25 minutes. When Mr. Joe and I take Lucy for walks, we walk, 1 mile takes us about 18 minutes to walk. So, now, if you were to measure a mile in feet, it would be 5,280 feet. And if you were to measure a mile in yards, remember 1 yard is 3 feet, then it would be 1,760 yards in 1 mile. Okay? So, so a mile is longer than a yard and much longer than feet or inches. Okay? So you would measure the distance from your house to your friend's house in miles, your house to school in miles, your house to up north in miles, so any long distance you would use miles. Okay, we would use inches to measure your desk or a piece of paper. You would use yards to measure a football field. They measure it in yards. Or you might use yards to measure the length of your room. Okay? So that's just kind of the difference when you would use certain types of measurement. You wouldn't want to use inches to measure the distance between your house and school, right? That would take you forever. Nobody has time for that. Okay? So the distance across town, what would we use? Miles. Great. The width of a quarter, inches. Length of a room, probably yards. Distance to the moon, miles. Okay? Remember when we say estimate, we're just kind of what would be the best guess of how the length of a kite string. I would say it's probably 30 yards. Length of a river, probably a mile. And the distance from New York to Florida, 1,200 miles, right? Okay, so again, we had some questions about this yesterday on Zoom about comparing. Remember that when you're going to compare miles to yards or anything that doesn't match, if it's not yards and yards, you have to convert or change one of them so that they both match. Okay? So for instance, number 8, 600 yards in 1 mile, you would change miles into yards. So 1 mile is 1,760 yards. So 1 mile is greater than 600 yards. Okay, so the same thing for this. You would change 2 miles into yards and then compare yards to yards. Okay, so you're gonna work on your workbook page for this lesson, and you'll have another lesson on Wednesday. I'm going to post an activity to do as well for Miles, and we'll talk again on Wednesday.